Chapter 11. Tyree was all right after Mama died, but I was all wrong. The year before, I'd seen this show about snakes. They showed this one snake slipping out of its old skin and then leaving the old skin on the ground behind him. That's how I felt, like Mama had been my skin, but I hadn't grown a new skin underneath, like that snake had. It was just blood and bones spreading all over the place. Every night, Tyree stayed with me in my room till I cried myself to sleep, and the next morning he'd find me sleeping curled up on the floor beside his bed. After a few weeks of me ending up on the floor, he called Aunt Cecil, and she came back to New York and asked around trying to find a doctor I could go to. A psychologist. A psychologist is someone, it's like a doctor for your brain. Some afternoons, I'd come home from school and find Aunt Cecil sitting at the dining room table, writing down and crossing out numbers as she talked on the phone. And some evenings, I'd catch her and Tyree whispering about different doctors, their fees, and social service benefits. Then, one afternoon, Aunt Cecil announced that she'd found a person that I could talk to named Dr. Vernon. That Wednesday, and for a whole lot of Wednesdays after that, Aunt Cecil would take me down to Dr. Vernon, an old man with a nice office in Harlem. His office was all wood and windows, and smelled like heat and dust and warm blankets. Smells I always liked. So while Aunt Cecil sat in the waiting room, I went to Dr. Vernon's office. I wasn't afraid, because the warm blanket smell felt like it was covering me up, protecting me. The first time I went to Dr. Vernon, he put some paper and some markers on his desk and asked me to draw a picture for him. There was a little table in the corner, and he told me I could sit there and draw for as long as I liked. But I didn't want to draw. I sat at that table a long time, just feeling the warm blanket around me, staring at that blank white paper and those markers Dr. Vernon told me it was okay to go. Until Dr. Vernon told me it was okay to go. The second time I went, Dr. Vernon gave me the paper and the markers again. I wrote my name in blue. Lafayette Miguel Bailey. Then I wrote Tyree's whole name, which was Tyree Alfonso Bailey, and Charlie's name, Charles Javier Bailey. I stared at the paper until Dr. Vernon came over to see. He was tall and thin, the way Tyree said my daddy had been. But Dr. Vernon's hair was white like Aunt Cecil's, and he had a white beard, a skinny black Santa Claus. I stared at the paper, and I could feel him standing above me, staring down at it too. "That's your family," he said. I shrugged. "Any other members?" I shook my head. "How does that make you feel?" Dr. Vernon asked. I shrugged again. "Like nothing?" "You feel like you're nothing, Lafayette?" "No, I know I'm something. I'm just saying that not having a mama and a daddy don't feel like nothing. It's just the way things are." "And how does that make you feel?" he asked again. I stared down at the paper, at me and my brother's names. It was a lot of white space where there wasn't any writing. I tried to write our names real big, but they still looked small, almost like nothing against all that white. "I want my mama back," I whispered. Dr. Vernon patted me on the shoulder and said, "I know you do, Lafayette." We stayed like that a long time, me staring down at the paper, Dr. Vernon softly patting my shoulder. We didn't say anything. There wasn't anything to say. After a long while had passed, Dr. Vernon said, "You can go now, Lafayette." But I didn't want to go. I liked the way it felt to have Dr. Vernon patting my shoulder. I liked how deep and soft his voice was. So I came back every Wednesday for a whole year. And while Dr. Vernon stood above me or sat beside me, I drew pictures and told him what I remembered and what I wished for. I told him about the hairy hands that came at my throat in the middle of the night, the hands that wanted to choke me for not saving Mama, and how the only way I could keep them away from me was to go into Mama's room, where she was waiting for me, where she told me to lie down and go to sleep, that everything would be all right soon. "What does all right mean, Lafayette?" Dr. Vernon asked me one Wednesday. But by then, Aunt Cecil had long gone back to down south, and I took the train by myself. I'd gotten used to the train ride to Dr. Vernon's wood and window office. to his soft voice telling me all the things I'd done right in my life and how it wasn't my fault Mama died. I looked down at the picture I'd been drawing. It was a picture of me and Tyree walking together down our block. Tyree had his hand around my shoulder and was smiling. I had my hands in my pocket and was looking up at him. I held the picture up so Dr. Vernon could get a closer look at it. "This," I said, feeling a smile coming on. "If you're scared at night," Dr. Vernon began, but I didn't let him finish. "Then Tyree's there for me. Tyree and Mama." "Where's your Mama, Lafayette?" Dr. Vernon asked softly. His white eyebrows crinkled, and he looked at me like he was searching my face for something. "She died," I whispered. "I know that, but I still feel her." "Where?" "Everywhere." I looked at Dr. Vernon. It was almost time to go. He told me a while back that this would be my last visit with him, that I'd done all the work I needed to do here, that I was going to be okay. Dr. Vernon smiled and patted my shoulder. "You can go now, Lafayette. Maybe I'll see you around sometime." "Yeah," I said. When I got to the door, I turned to him and waved goodbye, and then ran back over and hugged him hard. "Maybe," I said.